So in this video, I'm going to do how to solve quadratic equations using completing the square. So let's start with the question. So I'm gonna do this question by completing the square. Okay, so when I say complete the square, you must make sure that you complete the square and not factor or you use any other methods. So the very first thing you need to do is actually, so this should be 19x, 19 actually, is to ensure that you bring all the x's onto this side, onto the left side, and you bring the constant onto the right side. So now you can write it as x squared minus 6x. You brought the 6x over here, 19 goes to the other side. Now what you do is, well, you take, what we are trying to do is to create a square here, right? Okay. And so how do you do that? Okay, you do some reverse engineering. You take half of the middle term, which is negative 6 divided by 2, which is negative 3. So half the middle, and then you square that. And then you get negative 3 squared, which is equal to 9. Okay, and then what you do is you add that to both sides. So once again, you take half of the middle term, okay, and then you divide that by 2, get negative 3, you square that, of course, you get positive 9, okay, not. So you add that to both sides. So when you do that, you get x squared minus 6x plus 9 on this side, and on this side you get 19 plus 9. So this side is now, if you see these three pieces here on the left hand side, that is actually a square, right? Because you can see the square of the first term. So to get the first term, you put x, that is x squared, and then by looking at the middle term, looking at the sign here, you know that it has to be a sign here. And then the second term actually comes as the half of the middle term here, which is 3. And you can check it for yourself, because if you expand this, you get x squared, and then twice the product of the middle term, so negative 3x, negative 6x, and then plus the square of the third term, which is 9. So it is not really magic, because we added this base onto both sides as a kind of a reverse engineering for this to happen. Okay, so, and then we have 19 plus 9 is 28. All right, so once again, when you create the square, you put a bracket, and like a space placeholder, the first item of the bracket is the first thing here. Sign is the sign. Second item is the half of the x term. So now we really have a situation where you can use the square root rule. If x minus 3 to the quantity squared is 28, then we can say x minus 3 is equal to plus or minus square root 28, right? And then, of course, x minus 3 is equal to, we can write the square root of 28 as square root of 4 times 7. Why did I do that? Because then I can write square root 4 as 2. So x minus 3 is equal to plus or minus 2 square root 7, which gives you, now you can solve for x by bringing the 3 over to the other side. 3 plus or minus 2 square root 7. So you get 2 roots, x equals 3 plus 2 square root 7, x equals 3 minus 2 square root 7. So the important thing to remember here is that you make sure that when you use the completing the square, you bring the x over to the left side to stay with x squared, and you bring the number, whatever the constant, onto the right side. You also want to make sure that the leading coefficient is 1. Otherwise, we just divide out and make it 1. Okay, and then what you do is you take the x term, take half of that, okay, and then square that, and then you add it to both sides. Right, and that's it for this video on completing the square.